SMT Nation, we back. Nation, this is a really good article. I want you guys to give it a read, give it a look. We will cover the main points of it here in today's video. But still, I would like you to take a look at a lot of the details here within it. I will be sure to link this for you in the description. It covers some really important networking things that are kind of future looking, that impact us as customers and our experiences with wireless networks. So that'll be in the description, and ways to support the SMT in the description as well. All right, let's talk networking, shall we? The title here, Fierce Wireless article, millimeter wave still remains underutilized as operators thirst for spectrum. All right, so this contributor, Daryl Schuler, discusses, what it takes to network and what companies are doing across the globe. The research actually by Recon Analytics. You guys know Roger Entner and Recon, all the research they do. So here are the main questions asked within the survey. And by the way, the survey was global, right? So not just North America, but 100 operators across the globe. Question number 1, what has been the biggest benefit of deploying 5G? Question 2, the next phase of 5G. From the list below, which 3 possible 5G advanced technology areas do you think are most important? So you get a gist of what the companies think is going to be their focus area for the future. And then question 3, most important technology areas that you think 6G should focus on, which is crazy talk to talk about 6G. But anyways, the most common answers to all 3 of the questions had to do with increasing network capacity and getting more spectrum, right? And I have to admit, and this is something I think we should share. I'm gonna go ahead and put the image up here on the screen for you guys. Let me just go ahead and move it up. Trying to do this on the fly here. All right, so you'll see, is your network currently using millimeter wave? So check out these numbers, folks. 35% of the operators said yes. That is an outrageously low number, right? You would think that in the case of millimeter wave, it's an instant cheat code for capacity. You literally can't produce capacity in a more efficient way. Now, what I mean by efficient is just raw throughput. Millimeter wave is the answer. The trouble of millimeter wave in terms of the physics is the propagation characteristics. It has trouble getting indoors if it's outdoors, and it has very limited range. So it requires density. You have to install a lot of access points or cell sites. You need repeaters, whatever the case may be. You could see that carriers have not really taken to it. 35% basically means 1 in 3 operators are building it, and then the other ones are not. Check out the reasons. Focused on other spectrum bands at 30%. No, not provided by regulator. That means it hasn't been available to them, right? That's at 21%. And then 14% say no, don't see much commercial reason to use it. All right, so the data speaks for itself. Carriers are down on millimeter wave. They don't really want to deploy it, don't feel the need to have to deploy it, or find it as too burdensome or troublesome to do it, right? So, eventually, guys, there will only be so much mid-band available, and that's a wrap. The millimeter wave will be the answer moving forward. What these carriers are waiting for, in some instances, they're waiting for spectrum. In other instances, they're waiting for the gear, the radios, the antennas to get better, handsets to get better so they can utilize it. I will say this, though, and I can speak to some of the carriers here in the U.S. Verizon seems to have embraced the millimeter wave build, I think, a lot more than, say, for example, AT&T and especially T-Mobile. They're really only using it sparingly, and that's just not the way it's going to work, right? There's going to come a point where literally the mid-band will not cut it. It's really unfortunate to see people that are paying $100 per month for a smartphone plan on T-Mobile, for example, and then they go to a venue, a large venue, and it's a 50-50 shot whether or not their phone works. And if they're a concert goer with frequency, if they live in a market where you have a lot of visitors like Vegas, we have seen the troubles that these congested venues cause. And the carriers are going to have to develop solutions for millimeter wave, whether it's DAS systems or it's small cells and CRAN or off of macros. It does not matter. They are going to have to utilize this technology and this spectrum is just not going to cut it to try to rely solely on mid-band. And I know the carriers don't like it. It's challenging. It's costly initially. You know, you need 10 gig fiber circuits and all those types of things. But there's just simply no other way to do it. The only way to effectively network in these very, very precarious situations is with support from millimeter wave. And I think this disdain for it, the inability to produce a network with a substantial millimeter wave asset, is going to rear its ugly head more and more every year. So I think the carriers would be wise to actually build a network that calls for it within very specific locations, and you just simply cannot rely on mid-band or low-band for that matter. And look, I know a lot of folks on my channel live out in rural America, some are in suburban, and millimeter wave may not be necessary in those places. It's not what I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the places in the country where you have millions of people in cities and you have tens of thousands at these venues. That's a lot of people who are not going to have usable phones, but they're going to pay $100 a month for smartphone service. I'm sorry, I don't think that works that way. Right? So in my opinion, I'm not telling you how to spend your money, but I'm giving my money to the network that is most available most of the time. And yes, that matters when I go to places where there's a lot of traffic and millimeter wave is required. So tell me what you guys think of these numbers. Tell me what you guys think of the lack of deployment and the lack of vigor and life and vitality in the millimeter wave by these carriers. I will say that I think with respect to North American carriers, especially with the United States, Verizon seems to be best positioned for it. They've embraced the grind. They own their fiber. They have access to the poles, and building CRAN seems to be something they have accepted and really don't mind doing, right? And I think they're well positioned for the future. The other ones, they've got some work they got to do if they're going to catch up to the competition. But tell me what you guys think about all this. Sound off in the comment section below. You're the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard.